Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about C64 and Amiga emulation with Denise. And Denise just got a brand new update here to version 2.6, which brings about some new features. So in this update here, they've added in hard disk emulation, they've added ECS Denise emulation, added an option to overclock the CPU and support for floppy disks in SCP format. They've added CD32 gamepad support and even more stuff here. They've improved shader management. The app can be used fully or partially portable. And for Windows 10 and 11, they've added a dark UI mode. Denise is 100% free. It's open source, and if you wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo versus Pocket Pair, or Pokemon versus Palworld, and that whole lawsuit. And there's a lot of speculation out there right now that Nintendo may not be doing so hot in this lawsuit. Here is one of the titles that's circling around on articles online. Nintendo modifies patent amid ongoing Palworld lawsuit. And here's another one. Nintendo resorts to weird patent claims as its litigation against Palworld maker Pocket Pair is struggling. So from my understanding here, and again, I'm not a legal expert, and I'm actually very curious to hear Video Game Esoterica's take on all of this. Anyways, from my understanding, I guess Nintendo is going through and changing stuff in the patent, which may be signaling problems overall. So over on the Games Free article, which I do recommend checking out for even more information on the matter, and again, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below. They say here, in a clear sign that Pocket Pair's defenses have also made a strong impression on Nintendo. The latter ran to the Japan Patent Office in the spring and requested a modification of one of its 3 patents in suit. The JPO has granted and finally published the request. Furthermore, they say litigants don't change a patent in the middle of an infringement case unless they feel the patent is at a fairly high risk of being deemed invalid in its original form. And then they go on to say, the way Nintendo has worded its new claims here is, to put it bluntly, weird, and doesn't appear likely to solve Nintendo's problems in this dispute. Then they go on to say, even with Nintendo's new maneuvering in the US, it remains doubtful that there can be a promising US patent infringement lawsuit against Pocket Pair. And I guess the whole change here was to add additional wording to say even when. So for example, even when doing something. If you are curious as to the specific context of where even when is used, I do recommend checking out the article. It's very wordy though, and I guess that's because patent claims are not like everyday language. But they say here, even is a word that has no place in patent claims. It's too emphatic and subjective. Again, I recommend checking out this article because it's fascinating, at least in my opinion. And they say here, it is almost a Hail Mary, a desperate attempt to win by doing something odd. However, the presiding judge is very experienced in patent law. He can't be gaslighted by strange claim language. Now, I'm not going to lie here. I am very curious to see where all of this goes and how all of this unfolds. And I am wondering if this is a situation where Nintendo maybe was hoping that Palworld wouldn't fight back. And maybe just the threat of the lawsuit and the financial backing that Nintendo has was enough to possibly scare Palworld into just folding. I don't know if they were ready for this big of a fight. Maybe they were. I really don't know. But this is a very interesting case where someone is fighting back against a big corporation and fighting back very seriously. Furthermore, the article mentions this game here, which seems to be gearing up for release. It's called Aniimo. And I guess it's Pokemon inspired and another company that Nintendo may go after. At this point in time, I don't think Aniimo has released. It is up for pre-registration on their website. And there are some very interesting characters like Ember Pup. From my understanding, Aniimo just had a public beta from July 4th to July 10th, and I don't see any information about another upcoming public beta. But again, if you are interested in it and wanted to learn more about it, links are in the description below. There is a trailer for it right on Xbox's YouTube page. And I believe Aniimo is headed to consoles and PC and also mobile. And continuing to talk about Nintendo and playtests, next up we're talking about Nintendo Online's Playtest Program, which is making a return. They say here from 8 a.m. PT on July 21st, Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members can apply to participate on a first-come, first-served basis. They say here that this is a test of the same service for which we performed a test in October of 2024. And it will be for the Switch 2 and original Switch. From my understanding here, it's going to be limited to around 40,000 people. It will be restricted to certain regions, and the testing goes until August 8th. I am very curious to see what gets leaked from this testing and if they've got a preference to Switch 2 users or regular Switch users. And continuing to talk about the Switch 2, next up we're talking about Mario Kart World and sales of the game. And it seems that Mario Kart World is off to a very strong start. Right now it's in 7th place overall for best-selling Mario Kart game in Japan. It has beat Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, which is not surprising. Mario Kart Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance, and Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube. So taking a look at the sales figures, and at the time of filming here, Mario Kart World has sold 1.365 million units. It's got a ways to go before it beats Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is 6.373 million units. But I can see it beating Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart 7 pretty soon, that are sitting at 2.8 and 2.4 million units. And on a side note here, and this I'm kind of surprised about because I've never really looked into Mario Kart sales in Japan, but I am surprised to see Mario Kart 64 beaten by Super Mario Kart by a pretty big margin. I mean, 2.24 million units compared to 3.82 million units. And speaking about successes and surprising things, next up we're talking about possibly the exact opposite of that. Something that's not surprising and something that may not necessarily end up being successful, and that's Nintendo Switch 2 game key cards. There's an interesting article over on Twisted Voxel, and the title of this one says, Nintendo Switch 2 game keycard strategy may be discouraging physical sales of third-party titles. Now, just last weekend, we talked about Nintendo sending out a survey about game keycards to Switch 2 users in Japan. And some people had started wondering if Nintendo was reevaluating the whole game keycard concept. And now Sega is doing something that's causing even more people to talk about the situation. They're releasing a physical edition of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds on a cartridge, not a game keycard. So here's what Twisted Voxel says, and I think a lot of people are thinking along the same lines and maybe hoping along these lines. They say this is seen as a sign of hope that third-party publishers and developers will reject game keycards in favor of offering physical versions of their titles on either 64 or 128 gigabyte game cards. I'm not going to lie here, I am curious to see what happens moving forward on this one, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on the matter. I mean, put yourself in the publisher's shoes. If you were a publisher, would you prefer using a game key card to try to get the product in front of people's eyes? Or would you just put it on the eShop to save a few bucks in terms of manufacturing and just hope it doesn't get buried on the eShop? Or would you spend the extra money and put it on a 64 or 128 gigabyte card? And speaking about spending money, next up we're talking about Mortal Kombat 2, where I think people are going to be spending money to watch this either through a streaming service or in theaters. There's a brand new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer on YouTube, and I would say it looks good. If you've seen the trailer, let me know your thoughts about this one. I'm assuming it's going to be cheesy, but probably in the best of ways possible, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, as a huge fighting game fan, I love stuff like this. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. I mean, even if the movie ends up being bad, I'm probably still going to watch it and probably still going to enjoy it. I'll be watching the upcoming Street Fighter movie too. But this one looks like they actually spent quite a bit of money to develop. And I'm hoping here it turns out to be good. And on a side note here, if you've watched the first Mortal Kombat movie, you probably are well aware of the music. And at the very end of this trailer, when the title comes up here, the music playing it's just the icing on the cake. And even taking a look at the comments, and the overall sentiment seems the exact same. There's going to be a lot of fan service in this one, and well, as you can tell, I am excited about it. I don't care if it's bad or good. I'm going to be watching it anyways. Let me know your thoughts about it. And speaking about exciting stuff, if you've ever wanted to play the SNES version of Star Fox, but with force feedback, you may want to listen to this. Kando over on Twitter says, it's time, Star Fox Rumble is now released. So the ROM hack is up on romhackplaza.org, and they say SNES Rumble is here, introducing Star Fox Shindo Edition. subscribe to Mr. Sujano. I'm not quite sure on how to say that. The Super NES Classic, now with revolutionary force feedback controls never before seen on the SNES, using the SNES Rumble specification created by the amazing Randall Linden for the Ultimate Doom 2025. Many rumble effects have been added to make the game more immersive and take advantage of the new hardware, and it's tested and working on real SNES hardware. Now, in terms of emulation, and I'm assuming this may change in the future, but as of right now, currently only the Mezen 2 emulator supports Rumble. And speaking about ROM hacks, next up we're still talking about ROM hacks here, but going back one generation and talking about a ROM hack on the NES that, in my opinion here, looks too good to be running on the NES. This is a hack of Super Mario Bros., and it's called Celeste Mario Zap and Dash Deluxe. It has released, it's up on romhacking.net, and in my opinion here, this looks really, really interesting. So they say here, since a common complaint of the original Celeste Mario was that it was rather short, the authors of the game decided to spend some more effort on creating varied content. And the hack team now presents Celeste Mario Zap and Dash Deluxe, which adds 11 new minigames plus a final farewell course to the track, as well as a few quality of life features. And speaking about cool stuff, next up this is more of just a friendly heads up, but we're talking about the unofficial port of Mario Kart 64 to the Sega Dreamcast, and it seems as if things are progressing extremely well. So they're saying here, we just had a massive audio performance breakthrough. If you're interested in this and wanted to know about the audio breakthrough in general, I'd recommend checking out the tweet. It does get very technical, but it's well written and easy to understand. And I would say that in terms of the port overall, based on this information and based on how things are looking, progress is going very well. And speaking about stuff going well, next up we're talking about the Risc-V space and single board computers. And listen to this headline. ESWin Computing launches the EBC77 series single board computer with Ubuntu. And they partnered with them to unveil a low-cost performant Risc-V SBC with Ubuntu as the preferred operating system. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one, especially if you're familiar with Risc-V stuff. It's priced at $150 overall, and I think this may be a big leap forward in the Risc-V space, especially considering Ubuntu is partnering with them. Very curious to see how this does overall and if it's widely adopted. And continuing to speak about cool stuff, next up we're talking about this here, which is a portable GameCube. Red Herring 32 says, I'm making a portable GameCube. It's not a Wii. It'll have a directly driven 480p laminated IPS panel for the crispiest GameCube pixels you've ever seen. It'll have USB-C PD charging, video out over USB-C, and wireless 4-player multiplayer. Oh, it'll play Game Boy games too. I am very curious to see the final product, and I'm very curious to see it in use when it's tested. Next up, we're talking about the Fairphone 6, and it seems there may be some controversy surrounding this new phone. GrapheneOS says we've published a response with corrections to iFixit article presenting a highly insecure and non-private option as being the best choice for people who care about privacy. Not bundling Google mobile services doesn't mean a device OS has good privacy. I'll drop a link to this GrapheneOS article in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. I personally was not aware about this stuff about the Fairphone 6, and now I am concerned about that device. It seems that GrapheneOS does not like the Fairphone 6 and obviously does not like that iFixit article. So GrapheneOS says the article published promoting the EOS variant of the Fairphone 6 has major misconceptions and inaccuracies. The article promotes a product which is blatantly unsafe due to lack of basic privacy security patches and protections as being the best option for people who care about privacy. People who listen to it will be significantly worse off on the privacy and security front than if they had bought an iPhone instead. They go on to say Fairphone 6 does not keep up with standard Android privacy security patches and has no secure element to provide working disk encryption for typical users not using a strong password, among other flaws. I would say this is highly concerning, and I'm glad GrapheneOS published this because, in my opinion, I'm better off for reading it. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.